We are so excited to be back with you for another great episode of The High Road. What a great show we have coming up today.
We totally do. We have an actor you have all seen at some point. He has been in more than 130 films, including huge hits like Goonies and Die Hard. We have Robert Davi on the show.
Thus the hat. He's also going to talk about his new CD he has out. My Cut the Nonsense is about my personal hero, Ronald Reagan. He was the best example of what a real leader is all about. How about Global Connection?
Well, you know, I like to call my team Eminem, Max, and Melissa, and we're going to be talking about fair trade.
Sounds like a fair topic.
Too true. How about you kick us off with some humor on the lighter side?
Okay.
I'll take your hat.
Oh, yes, yes. Pinocchio, Snow White, and Superman are out for a stroll, and they come across this sign. Contest for the most beautiful woman in the world. Snow White said, I am entering. After a half hour, she came out. They asked, well, how'd you do? Snow White exclaims, first place. They continue walking, and they come across another sign. Contest for the strongest man in the world. Superman says, I am in. Half hour later, Superman comes out, and the others ask, what happened? First place, crooned Superman. Did you ever doubt? They continue walking and come to another sign. Contest. Who is the greatest liar in the world? Pinocchio says, this one's mine. Half hour later, he returns with tears in his eyes. What happened? They ask Pinocchio, and he snivels. Who's Hillary Clinton? A mechanic was finishing the overhaul of an engine when he sees a well-known heart surgeon in the lobby. The mechanic shouts, hey, Doc, come look at this. All right, Doc walks over. Mechanic straightens up and asks, so, Doc, I took out this engine. I opened its heart, look at the valves, repair anything damaged. Then I put it back together. And when I'm finished, it works like new. So how is it that I make $48,000 a year and you make $2 million every year? We're doing basically the same work. Cardiologist leaned over and said, try doing it while the engine's running. Let's go meet our guest. This is a thrill to have our guest on today. He has been in over 130 films. You may have seen a few of them like Goonies, Die Hard, or when he was a James Bond villain in License to Kill. He's also a fantastic singer. His first album, Davi Sings Sinatra, hit #6 on Billboard. We may need to have him on for 2 shows just to cover his amazing career. Please welcome Robert Davi.
Yeah. Hey, good to see you.
Good to have you.
I don't know about 2 shows. That might be a little bit hard on people.
You're just in from?
Monaco. I was just in Monte Carlo. I was at the Monte Carlo Festival of Comedy put on by Ezio Greggio, who's like the Johnny Carson of Italy.
Oh my goodness! So so now, if you don't know, he's in from the Mediterranean. But anyhow, now, Rob, you were on Neil Cavuto recently, and I saw that, and I read the script from it. I was pretty impressed. What was the issue they were pulling out?
Well, the issue was basically the Nebba Trump issue and wanting the GOP to coalesce around Donald Trump, if he's the presumptive nominee, instead of them fracturing the party by having all these attacks on him, cannibalizing his candidacy, which I see happening by the liberal and the right, and also the MSM, the media pundits. They seem to be unfairly, albeit he has some controversial, or let's put it, outspoken, politically incorrect statements in this climate of where our lips have been stapled over the last several years in terms of speaking our minds. So it was talking about that issue.
His phrase, make America great again, what would be your top thing that you'd like to see happen to make America great again?
Well, there's many different issues. I write for Breitbart, and I've written for Breitbart since the last, I don't know, 8 or 9 years, since when it started. Andrew Breitbart had asked me. He knew I was outspoken, and I was an independent and conservative, and spoke my own mind, and he asked me to write. And even in 2010, I wrote a scathing but informative essay on saying, GOPers, Tea Partiers, independents, lend me your ears. It's time to take immigration and deal with it. And this was in 2010. You can look at that article, look it up, and see how prophetic it was. And I had spoken to the GOP, some of the heads, and it was on deaf ears. And at that moment, I realized that they don't really want that issue to be handled. That and the trade agreements. I believe what Trump says. You know, Ross Perot initially brought a lot of awareness to NAFTA. And he said that great sucking sound you're going to hear of the jobs leaving America, if you recall that.
Yeah.
And I find that this is what's happened. And it seems that we have a globalist agenda that has been incrementally forcing America into its decline. And also the attack on Judeo-Christian values in our country is a big issue for me.
That is alarming. Hey, you've been in so many movies.
It's too much, right? You sure you want me on for 2 shows? Don't tune out yet.
But you've been in so many movies. You've been in a movie with Sinatra.
Yeah, well, I did my first film with Frank Sinatra.
Give us a story with Sinatra.
Prior to doing I had gone to Hofstra University. I won a lot of awards for singing, did a lot of shows, and was singing and for acting. And I was studying with Stella Adler in Manhattan. And she told us she didn't want us to audition or do anything for several years and just concentrate on the work, on the technique, which I had. So I worked as a waiter. And I was working at a place called Fiorello's, which is right opposite Lincoln Center. And about at a certain point, I got fired from Fiorello's. I had gone into work, and the general managers, I went to my drawer where you put your checks, and there was a check in the drawer. I went to the general manager and said, hey, this isn't my check. He goes, I got to let you go. What are you talking about? He goes, you didn't hand in everything. I said, but this isn't mine. It's not even my writing. I'm a lefty, and this is written with that kind of...
Yeah,
so
sure.
I didn't realize at that time the corruption, even in being a waiter. Had I said to him, how much is it going to cost me each... Because I was making very good tips and being able to pay for my acting and my singing and my dwellings. And cut to 3 months later, there's this film called Cherry Street that everyone wanted to be part of. Sinatra's first film that was being done in the last 8 years. A book that his mother had liked, who had just recently passed away. This was 1977. And my agent had told me it was all cast. I went up on a whim. I wound up getting the part. That's another whole story. But what happened? During the course of shooting, another actor, Harry Guardino, I was telling him, could you believe this, Harry? I used to work at Fiorello's, and I got fired, and here I am now making incredible, you know, they paid very well, and first part with Frank Sinatra. Subsequently, a couple of weeks later, there's a knock on the trailer door, and he says, come on, we're going to dinner with the old man. I get out, I go in the car, and we drove in the limo with Jilly Rizzo and Sinatra and a couple of other guys, and we pull up Broadway, make a U-turn, and they pull up right in front of this restaurant that I had gotten fired from, Fiorello's.
Oh, yeah?
And I looked at Harry Guardino, I looked at Sinatra, and he just smiled. He says, come on, let's go have some food.
Oh, gee.
And that showed you his you know, he was very...
He got a tongue-in-cheek way about him.
Oh, yeah. And also my scarring. He had seen that I had scarring, and he said, you were a forceps baby, as he was. So he was very sensitive.
Wow.
And he says, don't let those scars hold you back.
That's great.
You know.
Hey, and there's also the album Davi Sings Sinatra. We'll get to how to acquire that for yourself. We'll be back with more from Robert Davi. But first, we'll take a quick break. Today's Cut the Nonsense is about a personal hero of mine, and I'm sure he's a personal hero of yours, Ronald Wilson Reagan. We'll be right back. I want to take this time to remember a personal hero of mine, and I'm sure I can say the same for Robert Davi. I'll bet this man was a personal hero for many of you. The reason he is the hero to so many is because he showed what it was to be a great leader. I'm talking about our 40th president, Ronald Reagan. It's been nearly 30 years since he left the presidency, and what Reagan did as a leader is still relevant today. From 1981 to 1989, Ronald Reagan led a great American comeback. He not only achieved what his critics said would be impossible, he made it seem easy. His leadership transformed a sputtering U.S. economy into a rocket of growth that led to a generation of prosperity. He restored a neglected U.S. military and its alliances, engineering the eventual defeat of the Soviet Empire without starting a war and without firing a shot. Through it all, he revived America's spirit, restored our hopes, and strengthened our faith. Reagan had a capability for adapting to changing realities. He understood growth. He had a sharp eye for danger and recognized the leader's duty to prepare and protect. What if there never was a Reagan? What would the world look like today? Communism in the Soviet Union may have never collapsed. The Berlin Wall may still be standing. Our military may well be next to nothing. Who knows where our economy would be? America was truly hurting under Jimmy Carter. Unemployment and inflation was at an all-time high. You had to wait in very long lines just to gas up your car. Reagan will be remembered as the president who reversed the decades-old flow of power to Washington. By dismantling some federal programs and reducing others, he forced the states and the cities to assume more responsibility for running their own show. I will always remember the footage of a Hungarian man who migrated to America with his family. They lined the drive to the Reagan Library as the motorcade for Reagan's funeral drove past. Tears welled up in his eyes as he pointed to the passing hearse and told his youngsters, "Children, that man is why we are free." 500 million others can say the same. Yes, he failed to break the Democrats' hold on Congress in his lifetime, but he did force the Democrat Party to move to the right. Now, forgive me if it's painful, but let's compare Obama's leadership skills against Ronald Reagan's. Reagan made it a point to be friends with the Democrat Speaker of the House, and they worked together to get things done for the American people. Obama, he doesn't even bother. Instead, he speaks down to the Republicans, and if he doesn't get his way, he scribbles out an executive order. He sides with any group as long as they have no honor or reverence for America's heritage. The economy is still bad, and some argue worse than the days of Jimmy Carter, given the added malaise since January '09. America is so divided right now. Many feel it's morphed into an aimless, irrelevant culture unto itself. You don't see the pride for America today that you saw with Reagan. Obama's talk doesn't work on me, but he's been using guilt to paralyze and block the USA's glorious destiny. We need Reagan leadership again to end the chaos that has been the presidency of Obama. Come on, America. Stop worshiping incompetent stupidity, contrarian and destructive behavior, non-productivity, false religion, and phoniness. Let's cut the corruption. Let's cut the nonsense. Welcome back. My wife, Serena, has joined me as we continue our talk with Robert Davi. It is so good to see you again.
Good to see you again, great. And Serena?
Robert, we are
lovely to meet
so
you.
delighted to have you here.
Yeah.
Oh, thank
Absolutely.
you. What a
Really
nice
is.
couple.
My father wears your shirt.
Really?
Yeah,
It's
from
your
the movie Doonby. You know, like this used to be a nice
Yes.
town until you showed up.
My father
No
wears
kidding,
your
he
shirt.
wears it from
He
that.
loves it.
Isn't
Yeah.
that funny?
Hey, which
That was an interesting character.
yeah,
I love that
Sheriff.
character.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he kind of like, you know, it was fun playing him.
Yeah.
We made a little adjustments on that, too, because initially they had it, you know, I don't like to play so arc.
And that was the movie that he was in,
Yeah.
Doonby. But
Yeah.
but give us a movie that you finished, and right then at the wrap you said, "That was awesome. That was awesome."
Well, there's been a few, but you never know how awesome the audience is going to feel
I mean,
about
but
them.
at the point of wrapping on the movie, you say, "Wow, that was awesome."
Well, you know, there's been several.
good feel. Well, give us a couple.
You know, well, Goonies is a classic. Die Hard is a classic. License to Kill, of course, was that. Expendable 3.
Who was the Bond? That's a terrible question.
Timothy Dalton was the Bond.
Timothy Dalton
that.
on that
Yeah,
one. Okay.
that was that really was the precursor to the Daniel Craig, more edgier Bond. License to Kill was the first one that went into the edgier, way. Even GQ in Britain ranked me as one of the top 3 Bond villains of all time this year. In that thing, because of the edginess of it.
Well, first of all, I want to say congratulations on the Italian Walk of Fame.
Oh, thank
you.
you.
You got the star up there. Is that up in Toronto? Or?
Yeah, that's in Toronto.
Okay,
That's amazing.
We'll have to go and check that out.
Yeah, I was just also in Italy, where they made me. I did the Italian version of The Voice this in May.
Oh, did you really?
And,
oh, that's fun.
And then the mayor of Torretta, where my father came from, I had spoken about that on the show. They made me an honorary citizen of Torretta in Sicily in July when I did the Pescara Jazz Festival. Because I've been touring the world singing.
Sure, with your album and stuff. But I just want to get back to a second with this whole
stigma.
The stigma of the Italian American in arts and entertainment. It's usually
You seem to have made it work.
Yeah, how do you make that work? Because usually the stigma is negative.
Well, one of the reasons why I also then went and did the Sinatra album, because in an Italian family, there were 2 figures, the Pope and Sinatra, and not necessarily in that order.
Right.
And Sinatra, besides being, for me, the greatest singer of all time, because he absolutely took the bel canto technique of opera and put it into popular music. And that's where you get his interpretation, and we can do a whole show.
That's a
just,
skill.
Just breaking this down.
That is a fascinating skill.
But besides understanding, he was the first superstar to come out against anti-Semitism and racial bigotry. He was the big star, really, that gave the Italian immigrant an identity. Because at the turn of the century, of the 1900s, you got to realize something.
Yeah.
The Italian was, more Italians were lynched in New Orleans than any other
Wow.
Any other ethnic person.
Any other
That
ethnic
stat I
person.
didn't know, but I know that there was a
The
negative.
New York Times, in an article, had quoted someone as saying that the Italian is lower and dirtier than the Negro.
Wow.
So the Italian immigrant went into this thing, and Sinatra's family, my family, you know, and we didn't victimize ourselves in the country. What they said was assimilate. You have to assimilate, so speak of the English. And so Sinatra gave this dignity, and our grandparents, you know, assimilated to America. Unfortunately, today, the massive immigration problem doesn't let you assimilate. Getting back to the, which is another issue, but getting back to the stigma, yeah, I mean, Sinatra was a romancer. He sang.
Yeah.
You had a lot of Italians, that Dean Martin, that did all of that, you know. So you do get typecast, you know, just like anyone else would get typecast, and you fight against that. So I remember Stella Adler telling me they're going to have you play the bad guy, but eventually, then when I did the good guy on NBC for 4 years, mainstream television, you know,
And now, now
and you're still
totally,
playing that.
And now you're the good guy, and you're singing, and you're.
Well, the music is really who I
it's
am.
Fantastic! I love
It
it.
seems like your soul is coming out. You can do both, but you seem like you're really in full bloom when you're singing.
Yeah, well, because
I've watched you sing, and I'm thinking, this guy nails it.
Thanks.
Really, and so, wow, this is great. We could talk to Robert Davi for hours. It's been so great having him on today. Let's create some residual checks for Mr. Davi. Go out and buy Goonies. Don't rent it, just buy it. And Die Hard, License to Kill. And get his latest album, Davi Sings Sinatra.
And also The Dukes, for my director.
The Dukes, get his film
Me
The
and
Dukes.
Chaz Palminteri, Peter Bogdanovich. No, it's a great message in that film. It's about a doo-wop group that fell on hard times, that winds up going back to what their original love is, and it's really us pulling together as a nation and working together to create all our dreams. I mean, it has there's a big message in the ravioli, so look for the Dukes.
Got a lot of awards too. Hey, when we come back, Serena, Melissa, and Max get all fired up on global connections, so don't go anywhere.
I'm Melissa Nunnally, and this is Global Connection, where we solve the world's problems in just 3 minutes or less. Today's issue, fair trade. Fair trade certification ensures that farmers receive a fair price for their harvest and that lasting relationships are established between farmer and buyer. Right now, coffee is the most well-established fair trade commodity. Maxwell, do you think fair trade is the answer to help sustainability in these developing countries?
Well, I think fair trade is a great concept. It provides the farmers with a fair wage for their produce and treats laborers as they should be treated. I just hope everyone's honest in their dealings.
Now, along with coffee, there are actually 30 other products that can be certified as fair trade, including chocolate, produce, even beauty products. So do you guys notice these labels when you're shopping?
Well, I shop for coffee a lot, and so I do notice the labels, but it's not a determining factor in what I purchase.
Well, I have to be honest, I haven't really specifically looked for the labels, and I had no idea that it was on so many different products like that. Now, would I? Perhaps, but I feel like I do a lot of my shopping word of mouth. You know, if I know people around the world, and if they said, oh, get this particular product, I would get it based upon their word, maybe not necessarily a label, though.
Because you know how it's affecting that community group that you're
Yeah,
trying to support.
exactly. So, but I certainly can't research every single product that I'm going to buy. Who has the time?
Right, and that's what fair trade seems like they're trying to do. They're trying to take the guesswork out and have you trust them that this is actually helpful to farmers in different communities.
Well, and that's where it sounds so great in theory. Now, I'd like to see some impact reports to know, and I also hope our own American farmers will get the benefit of this. But, you know, I agree with Serena. We'd have to probably visit the communities to see firsthand.
And I would like, I mean, for myself, I like to do something that has an impact that I can directly see, like digging a well. That community now has fresh water. That is so amazing. I mean, I just love to see that dramatic of a change.
Yeah, you definitely know that's going to make a lasting impact.
Right.
Well, I have to agree with that, too. I mean, it's much more of an impact than my morning cup of coffee.
Oh. So it sounds like you guys have some traveling to do, you know, do some research and then maybe get back to us on your findings. Okay, well, there you have it. Well, we want to hear your thoughts on this issue of fair trade. Do you notice the labels while you're shopping? What do you buy? Send your comments to feedback@thehighroadshow.com.
Wow. Yeah, I wish some of that fair trade would overspill to our farmers here in the U.S. Very good global connection, dear.
Thanks.
Oh, yeah, I'm still excited about having Robert Davi here on the show. I love that Sinatra story.
Wow, that was a great story. And I know you enjoy talking about your hero, Ronald Reagan, in your Cut the Nonsense.
Oh, man, every time I talk about him, I get emotional. He was a great man and president. Well, that's going to do it for us.
Well, I can only hope that we were a cure for the chaotic world we live in. We hope to hear from you. Please go to our website, thehighroadshow.com. Can't wait to see you all next time.
Oh, yes.
Woohoo!
And bye-bye.